there's anything you don't want to say, don't say it. Otherwise, it'll be recorded forever. So probably should tell myself that more than anybody else, to be honest. But anyway, so it will be recorded and then it'll be minuted off the back of that. I'm Callum Smith. I will chair today's meeting. I'm day job's the police, but for the purposes of this meeting, I'm just the chair that will try and kind of get everything headed in the right direction. So I assume everyone's has seen the minutes of the last meeting. There's no actions as such from it. I don't know if everyone if anyone's got any issues with it, say now or forever hold your silence. Take silence has been a Miranda, isn't it? Anything you want to add to the minutes?
No issues with the minutes. Just to mention that we have had apologies from Councillor Gale, Councillor Baird, Councillor McGillivray, and Fiona Webster from the Highland Employability Service, but they have all sent me updates to read out on their behalf.
Perfect. That's actually 1 minute in the meeting I went wrong anyway. I was actually going to do that first of all. Anyway, there you go. There's the apologies, and the minutes was after the apologies, but anyway. So you now got the apologies and the minutes. So we'll take the silence as being a sign that you're all generally happy with the minutes. So I'll just go straight into this the agenda as we have it. We've got Chloe's going to give us a wee bit an input at the moment, but as we get further into the meeting, as we get into subgroups and the network group updates and such like, there's bits and pieces that we will get into to discuss a wee bit. Jamie Kellis is here as well, and he's going to give us a wee update around about just about community planning partnership as a whole, I suppose, and how it works. I'm just there's an element of in the background of all that we're doing that we're trying to, whilst recognising the good work that the partnership does and has done over the years, we're trying to kind of ensure that it's as invigorated as it possibly can be in terms of going forward as well. So there's a bit of work that we'll talk about that later on in the agenda. But first of all, Chloe, I think, is going to give us an input. Chloe Murray from Highland Council is going to give us an input about the Community Regeneration Fund.
So 13 weeks ago, closed, but no one contacted me.
I think somebody's
4 weeks ago, active, no one's contacted me.
I don't know if there's somebody not on mute, but maybe they're on mute now. Right, so so Chloe, I think, is going to talk to us. Chloe, I think you're going to talk to us money, Chloe, are you? Hopefully. So I'll get everyone's ears going with funding. So can I hand over to you, Chloe, and then just I'll let you take the mic?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Hi, my name's Chloe. I am the new project officer for the Community Regeneration team in Sutherland. So I've taken over from Paula Betts, who I'm sure many of you maybe worked with. So I have got a short presentation to go through and just go through what we do in the team and give a small update on potential next funding rounds, and also just answer any questions. So I will try and share my screen. 2 seconds. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
No, it's perfect.
Great.
Perfectly.
Thank you. So I will just quickly go through what is community regeneration funding and what do our team do. So community regeneration funding covers multiple community-led funding programs. So this includes Highland Coastal Community Funding, Place-Based Investment Programme, Community-Led Local Development Fund, and the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So it's an umbrella term that covers all of these funds, and this was introduced following the loss of the leader funding following Brexit. So our team support community-led projects within Highland, prioritising local development, resilience and social wellbeing to improve communities' qualities of life. So we also have a big focus on capacity building through skills development and confidence building, and focusing on our strategic objectives. So I'll come to them shortly. So who can apply to our funds? So eligible applicants include community groups, voluntary and charitable organisations, social enterprises, not-for-profit organisations that aim to benefit the local area, and applications are evaluated based on community impact, sustainability and with alignment to local priorities and local needs. So for Sutherland, this could be around childcare, housing, depopulation. I've also popped in here about key tips for a successful application with us. So generally, you would submit an expression of interest and complete a detailed application form that answers, all the questions and fits within our strategic objectives and alignment with local priorities. So it's really important in advance of this to have key engagement in the community. So have strong evidence that there's a need for the project and have a clear outline of your goals and objectives. As I've mentioned, it's really important for it to fit in with the local place plan and to show the clear project benefits, sustainability and the legacy. So how will this project continue to benefit the local community for the years to come? It's also really important to have everything in place prior to applying. So, if that is going to be the constitution in place, having your bank account set up, your bank statements, your match funding, and planning permissions, and also to provide a solid budget and timeline for your project. So the next question, which I'm sure everybody is wanting to know, when is the next funding round? So the timescales for our CRF funding are determined and subject to confirmation from the Scottish Government for 25-26. The budget came out this week, so we have got confirmation that there will be community-led local development funding for 25-26. So this is 9 million as a national allocation, down from 11.6 last year. Highland received 1.5 million out of the 11.6, so hopefully we would still get a good chunk of funds. And it's really positive that the Scottish Government are continuing to invest in rural community development. Community-led local development fund is one large pot of funds and isn't allocated to an area. We also received confirmation from Scottish Government that there will be regeneration capital for RCGF projects, and there will be funding for vacant and derelict land projects, but we've not had any further information on this yet. So going back to the CLLD funding, going by this year's timeline, we would expect to submit a community-led vision statement for Highland in the spring that would secure an allocation for us and set out how the LAG would want to see the fund delivered for 25-26. So around May, June time, potentially, for applications to open up. Councillors are also due to discuss the Tranche 5 allocation for Highland coastal communities, and we would expect to update on this following the E&I committee in February 25. So at the time, there's not been any further confirmation from the Scottish Government about the place-based investment programme or for Tranche 6 of Highland coastal communities, but we're hoping to receive more updates. And as we do get information through, we will let everyone know. So we have got confirmation about the community-led local development funding, and in February we will get a further update on the Tranche 5 Highland coastal community funding, and that is the fund that's allocated to areas and decided at committees. So I'll just quickly go. I've mentioned earlier about our strategic objectives. So eligible projects must fit into the themes of our strategic objectives, and I've listed them here below. So increasing community resilience, providing sustainable growth for their area and support for the community, addressing causes of rural depopulation, so allowing rural communities to thrive and create opportunities to attract younger generations, tackling poverty and inequality, addressing inequalities and causes of poverty, tackling the climate emergency, addressing climate change and increasing community resilience around this, and helping economic recovery and sustaining growth, so providing long-term and sustainable financial well-being to an area. So these are our 5 strategic objectives that we would hope all projects can fit into one of these. This slide here I have popped in is the Sutherland committed funds. So this is funds that have been allocated from 2019 to 2024 and have been committed to projects within Sutherland. So this does not, so this is the funds that have been allocated at committees. Over the course from 2019, we've had a total of 81 projects at a total grant amount of £2,170,994.37. And some of these projects are still ongoing, some are completed, some are throughout stages and have left a long-lasting legacy in the area. Our CRF team as a whole, just as an example, we have over a 3-year period processed 928 expressions of interest, processed 900 full applications, and approved 527 projects over the 3-year period. So this slide here shows the projects and the values of grants split across the wards in Sutherland and each year. So this does include our community-led local development funds as well as the area committee funds. So you can see here the split and the projects across the years which have significantly increased. The 24-25 was purely CLLD funds. I can pass this information on to anyone if they want to discuss anything further. And here I've popped in about monitoring and evaluating, because currently our team have had sort of limited capacity for detailed monitoring and evaluation. And this has been done through progress reports and end of project reports. But we are starting to introduce a new tool into our team, the social value engine. And this is going to allow us to report on social value and accurately, transparently, and it will provide us with a monetary value so that we can report back to partners, we can report back to members and to applicants about with quantifiable data. So we will have measurable evidence-based data that we can show to you, and it means that we can provide reports, financial reports, we can strengthen cases for future funding with members, with partners, with applicants, and it meets our reporting needs to feed back to the Scottish Government. So as an example, we would be able to look at on our database a project, and for every pound of that project, we will see a monetary value back. So say that was for every pound, it could be £2.50. Another example I have popped in here is as an outcome, community wealth building. So working with organisations on your project, and the social value engine have put an impact value of 9,180 for that. So if you worked with two projects on two organisations on your project, we would get an output return of that of 18,360. So we can put a monetary quantifiable value to every project and report back on that. So it's something that we're really looking forward to do. And lastly, I just wanted to let everybody know that we do have a mailing list where we send out information about funds, closing dates, application dates. So if anybody would like to be added to this list, then please let me know and I can add you to the list. We're also going to be sending out newsletters, hopefully soon, with previous project successes and the aim to inspire and encourage idea sharing and collaboration between community groups. So please let me know if you'd like me to add your name to the mailing list. And that is my presentation. I hope it's kind of given a bit of an insight into our team, and it's good to introduce myself to everyone, and it would be good to work with you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Chloe. That was excellent. It's always good to hear about money. So I appreciate your input. Has anybody got anything they want to ask Chloe, or anything, any kind of points they want to raise, or any discussion they want to have around about what Chloe has raised? Liam.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Hi. Thank you very much, Chloe. I was hastily scribbling down notes, but I was struggling to keep up a wee bit. But I'm not the best note taker. I just wanted to confirm something. I put down that May-June time of next year's the next kind of round of applications, but I want to make sure I've got that right. And if I haven't got it right, can you just tell me, correct me?
Based on last year's, I think it would be around June-ish time, but I can't confirm that. But we do know that that's for the community-led local development funding, and we do know we will have an allocation from the Scottish Government. So, but pending the February E&I meeting, we might have more information too about Highland Coastal's community funding and applications. So that's pending that meeting as well.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Makes sense.
It does. That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Liam. Thanks, Chloe. Anybody else got anything they want to bring up? Chloe, can I see one of the slides? And again,
Yes.
it's just my complete lack of knowledge. See that? I think it was 2 or 3 back where you had a table of projects approved. I think you mentioned CLLD or either one. I think it's one projects approved, and it went down to 9 for. Is it the next one?
Oh, here, sorry.
Yeah, that one there. What was that again? You said so. Obviously, there's projects approved 15, 23, 34, and 23, 24, and there's a big drop to.
So
this year,
that was the community-led local development fund from that I think opened last year, June, August time. So
yeah,
that the projects are from that round, and it's one large pot of money. So if you look at the coastal communities funding, Sutherland gets a really large allocation, whereas the CLLD funding round is agreed. Projects are agreed by the local action group by the LAG, and it's one large pot of money that everyone can apply to. So that's why those numbers are maybe not as high as the previous years. And we've also not had our confirmation of our coastal communities funding. So that's February, and that would be 24-25 as well. So that's kind of why those numbers are down.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No, that's fine. No, that was useful. I think I suppose the obvious thing, Chloe, is, and I'm working the assumption that a lot of people in this call will be aware of yourself and the funding streams that are available there. But I'm just thinking if you were, I know you've put your details in there. I don't know if you're able to share that. The presentation or your details, if you share it with Miranda, myself, or something like that, we can then share it around everyone that's here, just to make sure that everyone's aware. And
yes, of course, I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's brilliant. Thanks, Chloe, for that. Is anyone else got anything they want to bring up? David.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chloe. It's just really a follow-up on Liam's question, because obviously the circumstances with community funding is a lot of it goes financial year to financial year. So there's a lot of projects that are funding ending at the end of March, but doesn't look like we're going to have a meeting for funding until June, which leaves a 3-month gap. Am I right in thinking that there isn't any decisions made prior to that?
So this depends again on the meeting in February. So councillors are to decide on the coastal communities funding. So we have this E&I committee meeting in February, and following from that we'll have more of an update on the coastal communities funding. So we would have an update before May, June on that. But the community-led local development funding is for 25-26, and that's following on from next financial year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, even if there's a meeting in February, though, most staff that are on, if it's a staff project that are on funding till the end of March, the chances of turning around anything to get them more funding in place for that, it wouldn't happen. So I just wanted that clarified. That's fine. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Chloe. Right. No, thanks for that, Chloe. I think we'll just note that, and then actually, like I say, we'll share the information you've given, Chloe, and that'll hopefully give everyone the knowledge they need, and we'll take it forward from there. So thanks, Chloe, for your time. Thanks for the input, and hopefully that'll be helpful to everyone going forward. Thanks very much. I think, and the importance of this won't be lost on anyone, obviously, in terms of the funding streams and so on and so forth, because everything we ultimately talk about afterwards in this meeting largely it won't happen without funding. So it's vital that kind of we're aware of all that. So thanks, Chloe, for that. So I'll just move on through the agenda as it is. So we've got Miranda, I think you're going to have to do a lot of talking at the moment. There's a few of the councillors. Yeah. So I'll let you run through the SRI, the Southern Resilience Initiative, first of all, and then we can come up with the subgroups after that. But I think Councillor Richard Gale, he's not managed to make it today. So Miranda, maybe you can give a wee bit of an update if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have a few slides to run through, just to give the background for anybody who doesn't know about the Southern Resilience Initiative. Can you see my screen?
Yep, definitely. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so The Southern Resilience Initiative has been set up as a not-for-profit company aiming to create opportunity and tackle inequality across Sutherland. I just need to admit somebody. Okay, so it will be informed by the work of this community partnership, Sutherland Community Partnership, with the intention of raising and creating funds for projects that will hopefully increase resilience and reverse the depopulation of Sutherland. It was set up by our 6 councillors, primarily in order to apply for funding to purchase electric cars for use by community transport groups across the county. And this really is very indicative of the way the SRI hopes to operate by addressing an identified need and inequality that exists in the county, such as a lack of transport with people struggling to get to hospital appointments at Regmore or other places, and the provision of a service to sort of meet that need. As it says there, positive action to address transport needs for residents, and it's indicative of the steps the company will take, working with communities, development trusts and businesses to provide the necessary services we should all expect in Sutherland. So far, 4 electric cars have been delivered to local communities in Betty Hill, Scowry, Legg and Brora. The SRI has received expressions of interest for further cars from Dornoch, Editon, Assint and possibly one other area. So the intention is to look for funding for another 4 vehicles to increase that community transport provision. The SRI needs to consider how they manage the vehicles for maintenance and servicing. The receiving organisations are responsible for ensuring they're kept roadworthy, but the SRI, as the owners, have to look after the assets, and they will be looking at appointing a manager to take responsibility for all the cars across the county. And so why do we need the SRI? So there's a feeling that as there is no Chamber of Commerce focusing solely on Sutherland, that this leads to the county being overlooked as a result, and that if we want to retain our population and encourage growth, we need to deliver it ourselves. For all the good work that the Sutherland Community Partnership does, and it is absolutely vital, it is, as a partnership planning committee, unable to apply for funding for projects, so the SRI can act as the working arm of the partnership, tackling the issues, creating funding and opportunities to address those issues. So what's next? In order to be truly representative of Sutherland, they're really seeking members from across the county so that every area of the county has a say in how the group moves forward and how it is run. So we're really pushing for some membership at the moment. From the new membership, a new board will be elected. And at that point, the 6 founding board members will step down as they feel that going forward, they can best serve the SRI and the SCP from out with the organisation. And I've just got a note here from Richard that says that they will be looking to appoint a general manager to take on the role of promoting the broader aims of the SRI with regard to promoting investment in the county. This took a blow with Orbex pulling out of Sutherland, and we really have to focus on building the infrastructure that will bring in investment to build sustainable communities across Sutherland. And take on that role of being the strident advocate for Sutherland, to be somebody that will sit at the table when decisions are made about investment and housing that sometimes favours other locations such as Caithness or Inverness. And how you can help is by becoming a member. It's very easy. I'll post a link in the chat which will take you here. It'll take less than a minute, I think, to apply, and you can apply for ordinary membership, corporate membership or associate membership if you're out with Sutherland and Editon. And that's it. I will do my best to answer any questions that anybody may have. In Richard's absence, are there any questions?
Oh, you've explained it perfectly, Miranda. I think.
David.
David's going to come in a question. Go for it, Dave.
It's not really a question for Miranda. Me and Miranda chatted about this yesterday. It's more to build on the news this week about Orbex and the shock announcement that came out, and I'll have to probably temper my words here because it's absolutely infuriating that this has happened, and I think that we really need to, as a partnership, given the community benefits that were potentially coming out of that, understand exactly what needs to be happening if we have to work as a partnership to help push for a different outcome or push to find replacements for that, because it was the big ticket item for a lot of Sutherland. I won't use North Sutherland because it seems the public sector want to split Sutherland up into different sectors. We don't speak about that here. We don't speak about different sectors of Caithness, but we seem to speak about North Sutherland and West Sutherland. But anyway, but I think there really needs to be a proper explanation, because again, it looks like Sutherland's been sacrificed so that Murray and Shetland can prosper, and I'm getting to the end of my tether with Sutherland being sacrificed. So we need answers on this, and we need to understand if the SCP has to play a role in that.
Yeah, thanks, David. Marion?
Hello, I just wanted to say thank you for your support. We're kind of reeling from this decision at the moment. I've been told that Orbex are personally going to come up and speak to the community at beginning of next week, but I'm not sure if that's going to be an open meeting or not. But we definitely need answers to why this has happened and what happens to the site now. If they're not giving up the lease, then nobody else can use it. It's just crazy. And I know that Melness Crofters Estate are looking at other options, other companies that could come in and take over. But we need to know, we need to have clarification from Orbex what their plans are. But thank you for your support. It's good to hear.
Thanks, Marion. Thanks, Marion. Thanks, David. I suppose it's it is very sudden. I mean, on a professional level, there was certain meetings going on about it only last month or 2 months, 6 weeks ago. So I don't actually came completely out of the blue. That I don't really know how that's all come about. But I suppose relating that back to the SRI, I think that's why this is so, certainly for me, and I'm going to come back onto this when we get further into the updates later on. The SRI and the coming together of everyone that has any form of interest or intention to do things well in Sutherland. That's why it's so important that things like the SRI are supported to take off and people actually come together under as wide an umbrella as possible, because actually the more different kind of groupings that there are working ultimately towards good, all groupings work towards good in the end, undoubtedly, but the more that are actually working separately, sometimes that actually then kind of weakens the kind of voice, the stronger voice, and that's where the SRI, I suppose, and the invitation that Richard has put out a number of times already for people to join is so important. It can hopefully give a body of opinion and voice that can travel further than a number of different voices together. So, David.
It's a good point, Callum, because no disrespect to Trudy or Caithness Chamber of Commerce, but when the press are going to speak to somebody about this, they're going to speak to the Caithness Chamber of Commerce in Thurso. The Sutherland doesn't have a voice here.
Yeah.
You know, and the community of North Sutherland have spoken out, but there's a wider community that can support that.
Yeah.
And I think we need something in Sutherland so that we're not just something that's an add-on to Caithness or an add-on to Easter Ross for the Green Freeport, that Sutherland is an entity within itself. And we need to, and as I say, that's absolutely no disrespect to Trudy. I work with her on a number of projects and I know they've put a lot of work into the spaceport, so it's no disrespect, but Sutherland needs a voice, and the SRI may be that. But something needs to happen, because I just get this continual feeling, whether it's in council cuts or whether it's in decisions like this, that Sutherland gets sacrificed very easily because there just doesn't seem to be a voice here to fight for us, and we need to do more about that.
Yeah. definitely. It's only that by coming together that actually the power of togetherness kind of has an effect, I suppose. So, Phil.
Yeah, I think it's just worth highlighting that Sutherland isn't without a voice. It may not have a unified voice, but I think that the response of Northwest 2045, for example, to the news about the spaceport closure, and managing to get I don't know exactly how it happened, but somehow as a result of being briefed, it actually got raised by First Minister's questions. Mariam was on the telly on the 9, spoke very eloquently representing the community. So people are paying attention, but I mean, I accept David's point. Maybe we need to coordinate better, but you know, people are standing up and speaking for Sutherland.
Yeah, Joseph, I think it's your first time along, Joseph. Is it? You want to?
Yeah, that's correct.
You're very welcome. Give yourself an introduction so that everyone knows who you are. Go for it.
Hi. Yeah. So I had a quick thing just to kind of follow up on what Phil was saying there. But yeah, I'm Joe Peach. I think I'll have met some of the folk on this call now. I'm the coordinator for Northwest 2045. I started in August. And it was just to say that subsequent to the news and our Frances Gunn's our chair, so we kind of got some quite direct information from her. So Northwest 2045 wrote to all of the Highland MSPs yesterday morning, and then luckily after that, Rhoda Grant was able to quickly turn around a question to ask the First Minister in the Parliament. And just to update further, that after that, there's now an email chain going between all the Highland MSPs, and they're looking to get a joint meeting with High, and also to ask questions of Orbex. I think they understand that, you know, getting clarity on the position of the public funding involved in the project is a pretty kind of key step to, you know, whatever happens next. So it was just to provide that little extra bit of information.
Yeah. And I think, no, that's excellent. Thanks, Joe. And I think just following on what you said, Joe and Phil, and then I suppose going back to what David Marion was, I don't doubt for a second, and I don't think anyone actually on this call does either, that actually there are many people who are standing up for Sutherland as a whole. I suppose relating it just back to the SRI at the beginning there, I think probably the ultimate vision, I suppose, that the SRI has is to actually bring together as much as possible that kind of body of people who are all doing excellent work. And I'm going to touch on this later on because there's I'm going to get into it, but there's a lot of excellent work going on. But actually, the more that people come together, even to carry on doing the different things they're doing across Sutherland and in different areas, but managing to kind of interlink that, then the more that actually that will be achieved. So I think I suppose that's the overarching objective of the SRI. And so yeah, so I think it's probably just that's where the SRI is at. And I suppose the key thing there would be just to Richard's obviously looking for as many people sign up as possible, and then to hopefully kind of motor on forward with it. Well, pardon the pun, you take them cars into it, but to go forward positively with it. So, right, Miranda, I think it's going to go back to yourself for some of the subgroup updates for fuel. Yeah, fuel, food.
Yeah, so my thanks to Jim for sending through an update for me to read out on fuel poverty. He said that work continues with lobbying MSPs and MPs, as well as agencies such as the Fuel Poverty Advisory Panel, Scottish Government Human Rights Commission, who have just issued a report for the Highlands and Islands, as well as Ofgem. Things have gone quiet with the Rural Energy Scotland Working Group, but the Minister concerned has raised the issues discussed at meetings earlier this year. Ali Energy have extended their reach into the Highland area, and along with our CABs, form a crucial first-line support structure for those suffering issues with fuel poverty. James Warren of PayPoint attended a recent meeting and undertook to explore how the PayPoint service could be extended to parts of Sutherland where it has been lacking up till now. An ongoing issue is the mismatch of the poor level of community benefits Sutherland communities receive from our wind farms when considered against a substantial output from these turbines, and this is an issue which must continue to be addressed. And that's the end of his update on the fuel poverty group.
Okay. Is there anything that anyone wants to bring up or discuss around about the fuel poverty group? Okay, we'll just I'm kind of going to kind of sum up some of this later on, but I'll let you carry on at the moment and into the food one, Miranda.
Sure. Okay. So demand for food support is still steady across Sutherland, as reported by those attending the food poverty group meetings. Despite the best efforts of community groups, it seems that people are increasingly struggling with access to supplies of quality food as the cost of living crisis bites deeper into household finances. Community larders are replenished from sources such as Seafine, with financial support coming in one instance from the Robertson Trust and other input coming from homegrown produce. The November meeting featured a presentation about the Highland Good Food Partnership from Brenna Anderson, and this looks like a connection which will be of value as things progress. Among topics covered were the Highland Good Food Map, Get Your Community Growing, Highland Community Waste Partnership and the Regional Food Group. The group action plan is constantly updated to delete completed actions and establish new actions as deemed necessary.
Okay, thanks, Miranda, for that again. There's a lot of good work carrying on all these groups, and the food one. There's a lot of there's good attendance from core people, so it's good. David.
Just on that, we had a meeting of the group this week, and the last two meetings have really focused on the fact that there is less money available for food poverty at the moment. I think there was a huge amount available on the back of COVID, and that's starting to be redistributed to other places. That's kind of understandable. It was a shot at, but that means the support for food larders is getting more challenging. But the conversations have really been around encouraging more local growing and getting local sustainability of food growing and how we help assist that and how we link those up. And I think we are looking at potentially having a spring mini conference to look at growing across Sutherland and to bring projects together and to try and give inspiration. And to try and find a way that growing in our communities is sustainable on so many levels. It's not just about supplying food larders, it's about environmental sustainability. It's helping people to grow their own, and there's financial sustainability and there's social sustainability, because there's huge amounts of evidence that show the impact that working in community gardens or gardening can have on mental and physical health. So growing is a real opportunity, and potentially it means we can move away from having to be purchasing food from supermarkets in the future. And so I think that's one of the focuses that the food sustainability group's going to go on to, and I think it's quite exciting as well. And we've had some really inspirational stuff from the Highland Food Partnership and the Highlands and Islands Climate Hub and things like that. So that could be an exciting opportunity to develop more growing support across Sutherland in the next couple of years, I think.
Yeah. No, thanks, David. And I know I think I was at the last meeting or the meeting before last I was at, and the Highland Food Partnership that David just mentioned, they gave an input, and there's so much that goes on that actually I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about the opportunities that are involved in it or anything like that, and I think that's just that's part of what these groups do, is that they actually put people together, they actually point people in the right direction, they lobby about things, they push things forward. Sometimes it's not just necessarily about the physical output, it's actually about the creating the environment for things to actually flourish that actually sometimes happens in these groups. So no, that was perfect. Thanks, David. Thanks, Miranda, for the update. And it's Councillor Jim McGillivray that chairs both those. He can't be here today, but yeah, they wouldn't operate if it wasn't for Jim. So thanks for that. And Miranda, thank yourself as well for, and Councillor Richard Gale can't make it, so it's a transport subgroup. It's the next one.
Yes. Okay, it'll be very short because, to be honest, most of what he had to update us on involved the SRI and the delivery of the vehicles. With regard to the transport subgroup, we continue to meet regularly with good attendance from groups across the county. with everyone willing to share knowledge and experiences. It's hoped all the groups will become members of the SRI and partners as we work towards delivering an integrated transport service across the county.
Yeah. No, thanks again, and I'm quite aware of those. I've been there myself for the last couple of meetings, and there's a lot of good work is on there as well. And again, it connects that subgroup connects a lot of other parties who are involved in working in transport across Sutherland. So yeah, so it's good. Okay, Miranda, I think it's the last one you got to do. Employability group. I think
it is, yes. This has been provided by Fiona Webster, who chairs the group. Progression for Parents event. I'm hosting a parental event in Caithness House, Wick, next Wednesday with other employability partners and external organisations offering advice and support to parents who may be thinking about returning to work or in-work parents looking to progress within their jobs. We hope to roll out this event to other areas in Caithness and Sutherland on a regular basis to try and reach out and support low-income families, which is one of our key challenges this year. Caithness Jobs Fair will take place on Saturday, the 8th of February. So far, there are nearly 40 exhibitors who've confirmed their attendance. It's usually well attended, coinciding with Apprenticeship Week for school leavers and anyone looking for employment or a change in career. The North Highland LEP meeting took place on Monday, 2nd of December. Unfortunately, a few of the partners were not in attendance, so Fiona wasn't able to get updates on actions on the action plan for 24-25, which was presented to members at the previous pre-SCP meeting. However, they have been contacted for updates ahead of the next LEP meeting scheduled for February. A Highland Virtual Jobs Fair took place during the 11th to 15th of November, hosted by Employability Partners. This went very well, with almost 200 people registered to take part in the week-long event, and almost 30 employers across Highland took part promoting vacancies or upcoming vacancies. Feedback from the event was positive, with both attendees and employees, and it's planned to run another similar event in March 2025.
Okay. Thanks, Miranda. Has anyone got anything they want to ask around about the employability subgroup or the LEP? I've been quite impressed, I have to say, with a lot. There's a lot of work, and I mean that really there's a lot of work that goes on in the background that Fiona's involved with and her colleagues. Yeah, and it does, again, it's some of the unseens that sometimes you can't quantify the actual difference we're making through some of these subgroups. It's just the fact of the matter that we are making a difference. You create an environment, people are then able to actually develop themselves or develop a situation off the back of some of the work that happens in these subgroups. But there is a lot that goes on. Okay, I'll move on from that. Thanks, Miranda. Homes for people and infrastructure. I don't know, is Marianne here? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Marianne, you're here. There's 3 screens. I'm not sure. I can only see about 1 screen. So, Marianne, you want to, and I think, David, are you going to speak after Marianne? I'll let you go first, Marianne.
Okay, then. So the focus of the group is much the same as it was in the September update. We're supporting Sutherland's housing initiatives, and there are quite a few of them in different shapes and sizes. And yes, hopefully David will speak about the Kyle of Sutherland Development Trust crafting opportunities work that's been going on. Where am I on my notes? Yes, we've been supporting all these projects and being part of the homes and infrastructure conversations that are relevant to Sutherland, such as aligning recent Highland Council considerations on key worker housing with views of, for example, a rural GP of many years who's done lots of research and written about how lack of housing, he feels, has almost turned his role into an endangered species, because, you know, it's really prohibitive, the amount of houses that are not either being used effectively or not being used at all in some communities, and just planning barriers and all sorts. So I think that's somebody that we might get along to speak to the group at some point. One of the considerations is, should new community housing projects routinely consider allocation of key worker housing? And that's something that's been in a couple of Highland Council papers recently. The Scottish Human Rights Commission recently published report details what we already know about the dire state of affordable housing in Highland as well. Another focus has been retrofit, learning about success stories like the Kale retrofit project, ongoing work in Lochbroom and Ullapool by the Community Trust there. And the group is hoping to look at the possibility of us supporting training and achievement of qualifications, perhaps working alongside Employability Service to give contractors the skills to be able to complete this kind of retrofit work in Sutherland. The Highland Council Empty Home Service is developing a strategic framework. One key objective of that service will be engaging with and supporting communities in Sutherland to reduce the number of ineffective properties here. Last year, the Homes and Infrastructure subgroup was pivotal in extending Highland's only empty homes officer post, which was due to end in March of 24. It was extended to March of 25, so it's great to be able to confirm just recently, but we won't have to repeat this again as Highland Council has committed to making this a permanent post going forward, which allows for lots more to be planned there. The aims of the Homes and Infrastructure Group has been shared Highland-wide and beyond, thanks to group members who have gained the attention of Scottish Government ministers, Highland MSPs and national bodies with a housing remit. We'll have to work hard to maintain this level of attention and to make sure Sutherland's fair share of commitments, such as part of the Scottish Government's budget pledge of 768 million for affordable housing, comes our way. A possible question for the next meeting of the subgroup suggested by several Sutherland communities is should Sutherland have a consultation on becoming a short-term let control area? And finally, the terms of reference, the make-up and the action plan for the Homes and Infrastructure subgroup will be reviewed and refreshed in January. And hopefully David can give us an update on the work he's been doing on crofting opportunities. Thank you.
And Marianne mentioned the budget. I think momentum in all housing groups across the Highlands took a bit of a blow when the previous budget had cut that significantly. So getting significant budget back into that hopefully will be a springboard to move forward a bit, because I think that kind of put a lot of projects that thought they were moving forward in a bit of a hole. So that's really good. The other thing before I talk about the other two things before I talk about the crofting is place plans, which it looks like we're getting really good coverage across Sutherland now. It looked really patchwork for a while, but it looks like there's better coverage now, and the Highland Council have given a bit more leeway and timescales to allow the place plans to come in. They're massively important to allow us to move at pace with new homes. It's not to say that new homes can't go ahead in areas that don't have place plans, but place plans certainly make that a lot easier. And the Human Rights Commission findings, we were lucky enough to have a couple of meetings with the Human Rights Commission and feed into that. And when that report was released, I was listening to Radio Scotland in the morning, and Sutherland was mentioned, and I think that, again, it provides evidence of the work that this partnership does, the coordination that we do, and by speaking to these, that Sutherland's in the map. Even, this is the representative body that's putting Sutherland on the map as an entirety. So that's really good. As far as the crofting perspective, as most of you will remember that earlier in the year, about April, May, we undertook in partnership with the SCP. So it's a Kylo Sutherland Development Trust project in partnership with the SCP, and as everybody will know this week, in Balnagown Estate, to look at a demand for crofts and to see if there was sufficient demand that would allow landowners to potentially look at land that's not in crofting tenure that maybe could become crofts. And we were astonished that we got nearly 100 responses in about 6 weeks, and the bulk of those, I think it's somewhere in the nature of 75–80%, were of the of people of working age, which was really fantastic, because what we're looking to do is create opportunities for crofting to play a part in repopulation and having young families on there. So that has now moved on to the next phase as a result of the work that was done with the partnership to gather that evidence, and then subsequent conversations with the Crofting Commission and the Scottish Crofting Federation. So now Balnagown has initially identified a piece of land in Edgerton. Edgerton's a wee bit of a funny place because it's clearly in Rossshire, but it is actually in Sutherland as far as we're concerned. And it doesn't have its own development trust or anything like that. So I was speaking to the Edgerton Community Council chair last week, and he's very supportive of this because the reality is that their school, primary school, is going to be mothballed, and they need to get more people living and working in the area. So we're going to be working with Balnagown to try and develop criteria to look at ensuring that the crofts can be delivered to younger people with families, and that any homes or any decrofted plots will have rural housing burdens on them so that they remain in that. At the end of the day, creating new crofts is fantastic. It's great for sustainability. It's great for social value. It potentially can add to more growing. But the reality is we want more homes for young people to be able to live and work in the area, and that's really important. So this pilot in Edinburgh, which could create anywhere between 3 to 6 crofts of 10 to 25 acres, we need to look at how that works. Crofting legislation is incredibly complex. However, creating a new croft is easier than adapting an old croft. So we want to try and prove the concept, and then if the concept is proven that crofting can play a role in the repopulation of our remote rural areas, then there is no reason why the lessons learned from this exercise with Balnagown can't be rolled out right across the Highlands. So it's a really exciting project. Balnagown are speaking to Highland Council at the moment. They're leading in it. They are actually taking a social perspective on this, that they're not looking to purely profiteer. They are on the understanding that this is to ensure that communities become sustainable again, and it's land that has no value at the moment potentially having value. So it's quite an exciting project. I'm somebody who grew up in a croft. It excites me that we can see if we can get crofting back on its feet in Sutherland and working the way it is. People want smaller crofts now. They understand it's part of their lifestyle and they need another job. But this could prove a really good concept and help. So watch this space to see how we progress. There's no guarantees, but it looks like something that's quite exciting.
Okay. Thanks, David. Thanks, Marianne. Has anyone got anything they want to ask of Marianne or David? Simon?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm sorry I don't get to attend the group, Marianne. It's just 20 hours a week. It's just not long enough. But I took part in the Scottish Government have been doing a consultation about community benefits from the upgrade of the transmission lines and trying to make sure that happens. And one of the things that's kind of come to my attention in a roundabout way from that is that SSEN think that they need a lot of houses to bring up the staff to install these power lines, apparently. And it seems to me that there ought to be a link, if there isn't already, between this group, your group, the Housing Infrastructure Group, and SSEN to try and tie this together and make sure that housing actually becomes one of the benefits of these upgrades, because it's clearly so important. And just while I have the microphone, thank you, Callum. Devastated by the news about Orbex, and I would really I'm very concerned about the amount of public money that went into it and what's happened to that public money. But yeah, it's really bad news for us up here. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, hopefully, just in your last point there, hopefully that will work through in the coming weeks, and hopefully be a bit more clarity around what's actually happened there and actually what can happen going forward around about the site that Orbex were developing. going back to, I think you've made a very good point, Simon, around about SSE. I don't know, is that something that already exists, Marianne, between the subgroup, and is there any kind of links? If not, it might be something we could take away as an action just to kind of try and create something. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be really good to have representation from SSE on the group.
Yeah.
But also there is ongoing work within Highland Council, not specifically with our group, but with the developers and renewable companies, making sure that part of the benefit is, that housing is part of the deal.
Yeah.
But it would be good specifically for Sutherland for us to have that link in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree, Simon.
Okay. Can I don't know if this is normal convention or not. Am I allowed to create actions? I'm just going to create one anyway.
Go for it, yeah.
Can I then just ask, can we create just an action, and maybe just for the subgroup to add to the next agenda of the group, just to try and get a link with somebody in SSE, just to see what their plan, just touching on what Simon's there, just to explore their plans and understand things going forward, because it might open up avenues that were, if nothing else, it'll open up discussion points, I suppose. Simon, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that what I was talking about was SSEN, which is quite separate from the wind farm developers. It is about the transmission line upgrade rather than building wind farm and those community benefit funds.
Yeah.
So what I've heard is that SSEN are concerned about housing their workers. So I think that's the link I was trying to make. There are obviously other opportunities.
Yeah. Thanks, Simon. David?
And that cascades down actually to the contractors who are going to be delivering the transmission line. So it's Murphy's and the Wood Group in Sutherland that are going to be doing that. So they are the people who are going to be employing people on the ground, and they are going to be the people who are looking at work camps and all these kinds of things. So those are the organisations that we need to engage with. Marianne, we can have a chat about that. It's always good to catch up anyway. And the one thing we didn't say is we're always trying to get with the housing group a trip to Rassay to look at their refurbishment of homes there, which is really exciting. But it's a long way to Rassay. Unless Marianne can sort a fishing boat to take us from Lachinver, then we'll be struggling.
Yeah.
That should be easy, yeah.
Yeah. In the summertime, maybe like nice. But yeah, no. Right, that's fine. We'll take an action away for that then, and we'll see what links we can create there. Simon, sorry, go for it.
You see, once I start talking, I just can't stop. I mean, it's really incorrigible. But just for information, an interesting side effect of the redevelopment of the Neva Bridge, which is absolutely welcomed right across the board, really important. But their workforce has sucked up every available piece of housing for miles around. And our campsite in Betty Hill is slowly filling up with homeless families who are staying in static caravans and the rest. And, these things have knock-ons, and it's great. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm just raising awareness of it.
Yeah. David?
I agree with Simon. I've seen it in my time in Shetland where there was big construction things in there, and every hotel was actually booked, even if it was full or empty. It was booked by the construction firms, and no tourists could get there. And I also understand that the cable company who are going to be operating out of Nig have started buying up hotels in Alexitane and places like that for their staff. So there is knock-on effects. So these fantastic opportunities for jobs can also have knock-on effects on our capability to function as well. So it's a really good point to raise, that when you do get these major infrastructure projects in rural communities, it can really challenge the communities to keep up with demand. So we just need to be aware, I think, of what they are. And that's why I suppose engagement with SSE and their contractors is hugely important to understand what they're going to need. And my understanding is they want to, and they're actually being driven to, use as much local procurement for food services, for all types of services that they can. But what impact is that, and what opportunities are there from that, and how do we gear up for it rather than being swamped when it comes online? So there's good conversations to have, I think.
Yeah.
And we must build more houses.
Without doubt.
Yes. Well, thanks for that, Simon and David and Marianne. I think if we kind of if we take that forward as an action initially in your own subgroup, Marianne, it might be just in the basis of what David you're saying there and Simon's touched on as well. It might be that actually then becomes a wider discussion topic with others, because actually there's, if we've got large workforces coming in and yes, it has stresses on the community as a whole, or communities, but there's opportunities there as well, probably wider, that we probably need to look into and try and encourage the workforces and the companies that are coming in to make sure that actually there's benefits for Sutherland as a whole. So, Boyd, you want to?
I just want to say the reason being quiet for the last 5 minutes was trying to find the SSEN housing strategy that they have for the Northwest. So I just popped the link into the chat there, and that would be maybe the first place to start. It shows how many people they think they're going to come up over the next, I think, 6 years. So.
Excellent. It's good to have you, Boyd. I wouldn't have known there was such a thing that existed. So there you go. There's a document I wouldn't have found it on my own, is fair to say.
So somebody else has sent it to me, and I knew it was somewhere there, but couldn't find it. Anyway, I'll be quiet.
Thanks, Boyd. Thank you. Michelle?
Morning. This is my first meeting. I'm finding it very interesting. Thank you.
Welcome,
I'm
Michelle.
economic advisor in Highland Council. I'm based in Inverness, but I'm working quite a lot with the community in Northwest Sutherland. And I just wanted to probably just add to Boyd's point. So we know that SSEN has pledged to commit to 1,000 new homes in Highland. And you might be aware that the Highland Housing Challenge was, I don't know, announced, where we're needing 24,000 homes across Highland over the next 10 years, which is double what we'd normally require. So I think the pledge from SSEN of 1,000 is a huge way towards that, and hopefully that will be mentioned in the strategy that Boyd's just shared as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for that. David?
I think it's a good opportunity, as long as it's spread throughout the communities that are being impacted, because it'd be easy for Springfield to put another 1,000 homes in Milton Leys, and that's the target met. So we just need to make sure that the rural areas are being considered when these things are taken on. I'm sure that is the case, but again, it's just making sure the voice is heard.
Yeah, perfect. No, absolutely. Thanks, David. Thanks, Michelle, Boyd, and Simon and Marianne. Thanks for that. That was good discussion. I'm probably just going to come on to Southern Cares, but this is probably just kind of highlight the point here. I mean, we've spoken there about retrofits, what empty homes, key housing, short-term lets. We've spoken about the whole lot. These discussions and whatever, and sometimes we need to remind ourselves of this. And I'm not saying that people say this about this meeting per se, but I've been plenty of other meetings where people are talking about things and we refer to things as talking shops and all that. That's not the bottom line. Is if we weren't having these discussions and representations, some of the things that happen in Sutherland wouldn't be happening, and that's the bottom line. So, Marianne, your subgroup's a perfect example of that. It's not necessarily about Sutherland Community Partnership. Isn't going to be building. We're not going to all go and leave this meeting and start building foundations and start building homes. That's just simply not what we're capable. I certainly couldn't have fallen down in a day if I built something, but it's actually, we're not physically going to do it, but actually what we can do is actually set the groundwork, pardon the pun again, but set the groundwork and actually encourage people and allow people to actually flourish in the area. And that's always going to be a lot of what we do, because actually if we actually get people, if we're actually making people do things, then actually when other people walk away, then the things will stop. So you actually almost have to create the environment for people to flourish within it, and that's what these subgroups do. And Marianne's perfectly talked through that, I think, perfectly. So thanks, Marianne. Thanks, David, for that. And we'll take forward that action and bend SSEN's ear about helping us. So the final subgroup, I think, Sutherland Cares. Is it Fiona is going to cover this? Fiona MacDonald? I'm not sure. Is that right?
I don't mind. Leslie Ann is here.
Oh, is Leslie Ann here? She's here as well. Sorry, I didn't realise Leslie Ann was here. Sorry, I just got Fiona and Red right.
Leslie Ann's not.
Yeah, I was just about to say I'm happy for Fiona to do it. She's more informed than I am. I just trade it for my troubles.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks, Fiona.
No bother. So the last meeting we had was based around the funding that's coming from the Whole Family Wellbeing Team, which is 2 lots of £50,000 over the next 2 years to Sutherland about it. The idea of this second round of funding is to be decided amongst the partnership what would be best be suited for. So the hope of the last meeting was that we would have Hayley there, who would be able to share some of the data and statistics that they'd already discovered in their research. But unfortunately, Hayley was unwell and the apologies weren't passed along in time for the meeting. So we had a bit of a roundtable discussion about our thoughts just within the group. And since then, Miranda's been in touch with Hayley, and Hayley's explained that although they do have a lot of data for Sutherland, a lot of it is they're not able to share because of our population numbers. It would be too easy to identify a lot of different sort of members of the population. But the gaps that they had seen sort of in general, childcare coming out time and again, and youth provision were the two sort of big gaps. The projects need to be really specific. I know there's been discussions around employing staff to sort of look into childcare solutions for Sutherland, and if that was to be the case, then it would really need to be specific and make sure that we were not replicating something that was already happening in the area. Because I know Fiona at Employability team is already looking at sort of solutions with childminders, and I know the Northwest 2045 have been doing a lot of work into this as well, so it would have to be really specific. Youth provision is something else that's maybe come up. It's also possible that an existing service could be expanded or scaled up into a new area, so those conversations are still ongoing. So it's just because that data is so broad. If anybody has ideas of projects that they want to share with the partnership, I think we'd maybe arrange some more meetings and try and get this funding sorted as soon as possible. I think Hayley is going to record a little presentation that we can circulate ahead of the next Sutherland Cares meeting, just to explain exactly how that funding can be distributed. And I know I've already got a list of names from Hayley that have come to through the partnership about people who'd like to be involved in those conversations. So if you would like to be involved, please get in touch with Miranda at the Community Partnership Gmail account, and we will have another sort of get together as soon as possible to get that funding out. I think in the new year, there's maybe conversations to be had around Sutherland Cares, because its remit is so broad, that something like childcare, we could talk about childcare and children's issues in Sutherland all year long, but then there's things that would be missed in Sutherland Cares around mental health and around sort of the climate and climate anxiety and things that are happening. So there's more maybe conversations in the new year about how we can make Sutherland Cares much more targeted and get some really specific actions out of it. Yeah. And I think that's me, unless Leslie-Ann, you got anything to add?
No, I think you've been as efficient as always, Fiona. Thank you for covering my butt.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Leslie-Ann. I think has anyone got anything they want to ask Fiona or Leslie-Ann about Sutherland Cares at all? Is there anything they want to bring up? No, I think what you touched on at the end, Fiona, there, you're right. I think that's probably what I was going to touch on as a whole about the subgroups. Is that I think the subgroups have just highlighted the work that's going on really well. That there is, just like I said, there's work that's going on there. If we went for the subgroups, some of it would be much more hindered in its ability to go forward if it wasn't for the subgroups. So, but equally, Fiona's touched really well on a point there about how wide and how broad it can become, and at times then it's a question of actually how where do you focus your energy to try and achieve something, or do you carry on being broad? For example, housing will always be by its nature broad because of our homes for homes and infrastructure. It will be broad because of its nature. We can't be building the homes, like I say, but other times it might be like childcare. If you want to touch on there might be some kind of themes that we want to actually really focus on heavily. So just to give an update in terms of the wider picture, just for everyone's benefit. So across the subgroups at the moment, and I think this is really healthy, if I'm perfectly honest with you, and I think the fact that all the chairs and everyone's involved in the subgroups is buying into this is really positive. The partnership as a whole is I think it's regularly mentioned, has probably been, if not is certainly one of the most useful and well functioning across Highland as a whole, if not Scotland. and that's a direct reflection on those who have been involved in it now and over the years. But it's also good to take stock sometimes and actually see where we're at, and that's what we're currently doing. So we've had a workshop just last month or about 6 weeks ago. We've got another workshop just in the new year where we're reviewing the subgroups. We're seeing what's good, we're seeing what we can do better, and we're seeing if we need to kind of slightly change anything. And I'm not going to say much more about that in the moment, because we're going to, when Jamie Kellis comes to talk, we'll talk about community planning partnership as a whole. And so we're building all of that into the new year going forward, and making sure we're supporting the chairs, because one of the things about all this is that the chairs at times can sometimes be left in a lonely position. The chairs are not, they're excellent people, but it's not fair on them to be left as experts in a situation. It has to be a community enterprise and a joint enterprise going forward by everyone in the group. So in as much as the groups, that's where we're at with the subgroups, we are carrying a review out, and we're trying to kind of help things going forward and rejig things if we need to. So that's where we're at. So Yvonne.
I was just wondering about setting up something like the children and young people one that we had before, which was really good, and it also can feed direct to the Sutherland Youth Forum, and I'd definitely be keen to get involved in something that's based around that. So.
Yeah. No, definitely one, and I think that just touching on what Fiona said, you've kind of just followed on. I think that will be something that will be discussed just with. Because what we've, I mean, just even just share you right now, one of the things we found for the employability subgroup, yet you've got Fiona's, the LEP, so the local employability group that Fiona leads on in her professional life. That's actually then a lot of that work is already happening. So some of the subgroup, the employability work the subgroup does, it's almost a question of how does that go forward on behalf of the partnership. So there's things there, just touching what you said there, Yvonne, there's things there that we will, there's an opportunity to look at that right now, and we will do, because childcare is something that continually comes up, and rightly so, is something that needs to be considered, and youth work as a whole. So yeah, thanks, Yvonne. Sandra?
Hi there. Yeah, it's my first time attending today, so I actually have to leave for another meeting, unfortunately, but I was just, it's been really helpful, and I just thought there's been a few topics I think that we could possibly, I thought we could link in with. We've got a tenancy sustainment team at Alban Housing. I don't know if everyone's aware of that, just since last year. And we provide support to tenants, obviously, in all the areas we have housing. And we're also doing a little bit of work while we're building and work around projects in targeted areas. So I'm just thinking, listening to everyone, there might be things we can link in on. We've just done a small pilot around digital inclusion in one area, and we've got a community garden project that we're hoping to start in another area. So it's just to let everyone know, like, if we could come along next time, or we could feed in and perhaps let you know what we're doing at Alban as well, because everyone might not be aware, and it is a relatively new team, and we are just building on what we've started already. So it was just to make you aware of that. Anyway, my colleague Patrick's also on the meeting, and he'll stay on, I think, but I'm going to have to go to another meeting, I'm afraid.
No, thanks, Sandra. You're more than welcome, and thanks for coming. And you've just about virtually nominated yourself into the Homes group there. You'll be chaired before you know it.
Be more than happy to. Yeah, as you know, we cover like so many areas, so it'd be good to link in. And as I say, with the new team, we're doing a lot more sort of targeted, looking at different areas of the communities. So it'd be good to link in with different groups and see where we can perhaps contribute. So brilliant.
Thanks, Sandra. And
okay.
You're more than welcome coming along. Thanks. I'll need to actually next meeting. I'll actually need to. I've kind of started. I don't want to go through everyone. Over 40, nearly 50 people here. I'm not going to go through everyone, introduce everyone at the beginning. But if there's new people the next meeting, I'll need to start doing that rather than. So anyway, thanks for coming, Sandra, and thanks for your input.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Right, I'll quickly move on to network group updates. So I think is it Joe? Joe is going to Northwest 2045. Joe, you've introduced yourself already, so you've got the floor now.
Nice one. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. This is my first meeting as well, and it's been really useful and informative. I've lots of things perhaps to pick up on afterwards. So big things that have happened recently. We held an event, a Northwest 2045 event in Dornoch at the start of last month, and that was really good. It was great to get everyone together and, to hear about a lot of the progress that's happened in a lot of different areas across Northwest 2045. And we spent the afternoon looking at kind of what I think is going to be one of my key priorities for the next kind of bit of, well, certainly my contract runs till March, and so certainly until then, I think is going to be kind of developing kind of the community voice and governance aspect of Northwest 2045. We're working towards a kind of steering group that represents the area geographically and kind of communities within it, so that those are the folk that are kind of steering the work of me and other staff and contractors for the project, which I think will be really kind of an important thing for it going forwards. Another thing I'm working on at the moment is commissioning a couple of bits of research, doing a socioeconomic profile of the area, kind of using available secondary data that can be kind of broken down into different communities, and kind of giving a statistical picture of each of those communities. And then that's a baseline a bit against which we can measure in the future, which I think will be quite useful for, you know, perhaps quantifying the impact of a lot of the work that's going on in the area. And that's something that when it's done, we'll be looking to share as widely as possible. Quite a few folk who I've spoken to have mentioned that that's something that would be really useful. So yeah, it's all trucking on really, and it's nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I was talking to Miranda and Scott McDonald, who's not here today, but I was talking to them yesterday, and they were singing the praises of Northwest 2045, and so I've no doubt that you will add to that, Joe. So thanks for your update, and thanks for it's good to hear everything that's happening. Is anything they want to say? Phil?
Just quickly to thank Joe for coming along and giving that update. The idea of revisiting and confirming how Northwest 2045 will work in the future is really, really invaluable, actually. I think it will really help everybody. And the fact that it's going to be governed by a steering group made up of community representatives, I think is to actually formally put that down, I think is a really, really positive step. Yeah. The other thing in the update, which I've circulated to Miranda and Scott, was there was a little bit from Boyd, and I see Boyd is there. I don't want to put him on the spot, but Boyd, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add from your repopulation work to the Northwest 2045 update.
Houses. Well, our first project has got planning permission and warrant, which is great, and that was in Scourie, which is just 4 units. And the other one is that working with Kinloch Revy on the local place plan, we'd be able to identify quite a large area which could possibly be taken forward for either commercial or for homes, which is really interesting. And I've been asked to, because my work keys in quite well with local place plans, so I'll see if I can support the up in Durness and also in Assynt. So going forward, but that's about where I am at the moment.
Thanks, Boyd. Thanks, Phil. I think I keep going back to what I say all the time, that actually these things wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for yourselves and the work that you're doing, and the work that Northwest 2045 is doing. So so thanks for that. I'll come to Angela now. Angela, you want to give a bit about the scan, the Anchor network?
Well, Karina's here actually, and I think
Karina,
she wrote the update, and she's going to do the verbal one as well.
Karina.
So if you're still there, Karina, thank you.
Yeah, I'm still here. Hi, everyone. Just for those that don't know, I'm Karina Ross. I work with Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and I chair the Sutherland Community Anchor Network. So it's a meeting that takes place usually monthly, and we last met last week, and that's made up of a lot of development trusts and community organisations and some community council representation as well. So the types of things we've been discussing the last meeting, we had Councillor Richard Gale join us as well. He was giving an update on the Sutherland Resilience Initiative, and it was really good for the group to get that update from him. I know Richard's keen to spread that message as far as possible, so I think it's definitely getting out there, and lots of people are aware of what the group's all about and what it's trying to achieve. So we've been looking at, as a group, it's always around what everybody is working on currently, challenges they're facing, information sharing, identifying partnership opportunities as well. So recent topics have included a lot of what's discussed today, but housing projects that the group are working on, growing and food projects, local Christmas support and different provision, their involvement in local place plans as well, and always talk about funding, and in particular core funding. We did update previously about some work the group had initiated. It was in relation to some community sessions we were trying to set up, and that was to try and get our community groups having better conversations, better partnerships and better outcomes as well. And those are sessions that we're hoping to take place in March this year. They're going to be led by John Surrick, KC, and we're going to get some details out about those in the new year. Voluntary Group Sutherland have kindly set forward to lead on that work, but it was something that was first discussed at the SCAN group. So it's been a bit of partnership working and trying to see if we've got a huge number of community groups and organisations right across the county, and just trying to encourage people to work better together, understand what each other are doing and see what opportunities might come out of the back of that. The next meeting for the group it would have been due to take place, it's normally 4 weekly, so it would have fallen just before Christmas. So we've left it until January the 14th for the next meeting. And Chloe, who was speaking earlier, is going to join us on that meeting again. And not everyone is always able to attend the wider partnership meetings, but a lot of people who attend the SCAN group have benefited from community regeneration funding in the past. So we thought it would be useful for Chloe to come along and just give a bit of an update for us again next month as well. So that's basically where the SCAN group's up to at the moment.
Thanks, Karina. That's excellent. Has anyone got anything they want to ask Karina or bring up? I do. There's just a quick question. So one of the things that I kind of, it's probably just or something going forward, but as we're kind of trying to go through the subgroups and just kind of look at them and make sure that everyone's been given the support and that they're focused on kind of where they should be, or if we need to change things and all that. One of the things I kind of started asking, and I'm literally asking that these stupid questions that maybe other people do think and they're too polite to ask, or maybe actually they know the answers and they don't need to ask them. But one of the things I found myself asking over the last couple of weeks was, and then we're going to come on to Jamie Kellis in a minute, or talking about community planning partnership as a whole across Highland and how that fits into the HOIP, the Highland Outcome Improvement Plan, all these bits and pieces, so we'll have the objectives that come out of the HOIP and so on and so forth, and the intentions. And then we've got the subgroups and then the Southern Community Partnership. And one of the things I found myself thinking is, I wonder how much, or how, and maybe this is already very, very well linked together, or maybe that's always the intention of your group, Karina, was, we might find ourselves that actually looking at, say, objectives, fuel poverty, whatever, and I'm just picking that because it's the top of the list there. Yet there might be other development trusts that are actually doing a really good job in a particular area that might not be fitting directly into the subgroup of the community partnership. And I'm not sure if that's, so I suppose my observation is whether there's something that can be off the back of the subgroups that we're doing, whether we can then potentially link in with yourself, Karina, to then get a broader picture across Sutherland as a whole. But equally then, is there something that, it might be something that we can evolve off the back of all that, where we ask ourselves, is there already a lot of work going on across a lot of development trusts already that actually covers a lot of the work that the partnership is trying to, so it's almost rather than actually the partnership trying to say, right, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll focus on this and that we actually, first of all, question what's already happening. And I kind of figure SCAN is probably the obvious place to that you're already kind of pulling a lot of that together, Karina. Is that fair?
Well, the SCAN group originally was set up on the back of COVID, when a lot of the Scottish Government funds were trying to get them out quite quickly. HI had been asked to act to identify anchor organisations and how we could get that money out onto the ground to help our communities as quickly as possible. So we started to try and identify different groups. So we managed to do that, and we weren't really sure where the SCAN group would go from there. And it has developed over time and evolved, and we've had different people involved in the group. But it's always, we did wonder for a while, would it still be needed, and was the work already taking place with the other subgroups and that type of thing. But I think we realised that not everyone was able to go to a lot of those meetings, so it just feels like it's still a good network for everyone to share what they are doing. And then trying to capture that and feed that into, a lot of people do manage to attend a lot of the different groups, but everyone isn't able to. And crucially, we still have people attending, a really good attendance on a regular basis, and I think because it's mainly made up of development trusts, they're so similar with what they're facing And they do a lot of learning and sharing in terms of on virtually every meeting, there'll be someone who's facing a challenge or already done a piece of work that they can share that information with someone else. So it's very much about trying to capture that. But if there's more that can be done, we're always sort of willing to share that information, get involved in other things. If it can be linking things up a bit better, then certainly open to any ideas around that. But I see David wants to come in if you've got something to feed into that.
Yeah, it was kind of in the back of Callum, and I actually really value the meetings that High still deliver for the community anchor organisations, and I think we have to fully understand the value of community anchor organisations and the precariousness of the situation. Now, the Development Trust in Tain closed its doors on the 30th of November there because of lack of funding, and did a power of work in Tain. But the reality is that it's not a given that you can sustain organisations that drive forward such multi-purpose and multi-strand projects in your area, and there really needs to be I think a proper understanding of the value and the impact if they disappear, because we have an example. It's not just something that we pontificate about and just say, oh, this may happen if we don't give us funding, we'll close our doors. We've seen the Tain Development Trust has closed its doors because of lack of funding. So I really value the community anchor network that Karina chairs, and I think we need to fully understand that public sector finance is not in the position that it once was. It's going to be more challenging. Partnership working has to take precedent, and we have to make sure that we don't avoid duplication and we make as much money go as far as we possibly can. And the work that Karina's highlighted with John Starrick that we hope really needs to happen, because the communities need to pull together to understand that these are going to be challenging times, and we need to understand what's available to our community, what's important for our community, and to sustain things going forward. So I think that looks like the way that the SCAN group is going with the community anchor networks, and I think what's happened in Tain is a reminder that it's not just a given that these organisations will still be here next year. So funding and support and partnership working is massively important.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, yeah, if it wasn't for the trusts, the development trusts, I mean, I tell you, most of these things wouldn't be happening. It's bottom line. So, okay, thanks, Dave. Thanks, Karina, for that update. I think, yeah, I think your group is very valuable. There's no two ways about that. It actually brings people together, and it gives a bit of cohesion to everything that's happening across Sutherland as a whole, across different groups. So thanks for that. Right, Jamie, I'll come to yourself now just about the community planning update. This could be quite. Is Jamie here? This could be quite. I mean, this could be quite broad. So I've said to Jamie, I says just to kind of give a quick update. Just around about, I suppose I've asked him at the outset just to kind of explain what community planning partnerships is. I mean, it's always dangerous to assume that everyone knows everything. So I've just said to Jamie, just to start off with that, and then just to kind of give an update as to where things are at. Is Jamie here?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're here, Jamie. I can't. Yeah, sorry, it's just one screen I can see. Go for it, Jamie, and just.
Yeah, just before I start, apologies, my Wi-Fi is not the best, so it seems to be a bit better without the camera. I've said to Miranda, if I cut out at any point, she can just jump in and let me know, because I'm not really sure. I'm actually working from London today, so London must be one of these places you hear about, one of these left behind areas that hasn't had much investment. The Wi-Fi is a bit patchy, so I'll do my best. Okay. Yeah, as you say, Callum, before I give the main update from the board, which is going to be a standing agenda item going forward, I'll just kind of try and, I suppose, contextualise a bit the partnership team, and obviously my role as partnership officer and community planning in general. Obviously, I'm relatively new in post, but also appreciate there's other partners around the table who are joining, and obviously today's a good example of that. So hopefully a bit of information will be useful. So just as a starting point, the purpose of community planning, and I suppose by extension the community planning partnership, is to reduce inequalities. So the idea being that if public sector bodies work in partnership with each other and obviously with the third sector, development trusts, etc., then outcomes will be improved and inequalities will be reduced. And I think what David has just said is obviously hit the nail on the head, and things are becoming tighter and tighter every year. So that kind of partnership working is becoming ever more important. In terms of the role of the partnership team, so that's the team I work for, which is managed by Gail Prince, which probably most folk on the call will know Gail. We're there to support the 9 community partnerships across the Highlands, of which Sutherland is obviously one. And I suppose more specifically there to support the chair and vice chair of the partnership. And the level and type of support that we provide is really kind of dependent on each community partnership and where we can best support, really. And I suppose my colleagues and I, we're really aiming to get community partnerships to a level where, in an ideal world, the partnership team won't really be required. Now, I suppose Sutherland is slightly different in the sense that Scott and Miranda are in place and are able to provide obviously excellent direct support for the partnership in the form of subgroups and project work, etc. But hopefully Scott and Miranda, as well as everyone else in the wider partnership, know that I'm more than happy to help where I can. In terms of building partners' knowledge about the purpose and the remit of community planning, I've been working on a community planning induction module, which I think was mentioned at one of the development days a couple of months back. And I'm hoping that will be live early-ish in 2025. We've lined up a test run with elected members. So I dare say we'll get plenty of feedback about what can stay in and what needs to come out. So hopefully the module will provide a bit of a basic outline of what community planning is, and that can be accessed by anyone joining the partnership, and also just by folk who have been in the partnership and just want a bit of a refresher. In terms of the partnership team at Wide, I just wanted to touch on a little bit about what has been going on over the last year or so. Obviously, as I say, I've just come into post in August, but the team were established last summer. So I've got a bit of a list of kind of achievements and kind of things that have been carried out. So when the team came in, I suppose the first point was to baseline community partnership landscape, kind of introduce their roles, created branding for community partnerships that didn't have them. Obviously, again, Sutherland slightly different because it's been long established, and as you said, Callum, with probably one of the better community partnerships across Scotland.
I think the best is Jamie. Is that not the word you're looking for? The best.
The best, yeah, exactly. Thanks for that correction. Yeah, and also created the website, which hopefully folk have used and engaged with. There's, as well as stuff about the team. Actually, the CPP website is really best for kind of using as a launch pad for other bits and bobs happening around the Highlands and in various communities. So the website is something that is a big part of our role in keeping that up to date. So happily, all 9 community partnerships are now active. We've done some partnership coordinating group events. We've developed identifying priorities workshops. We've developed the minimum standards model, and obviously supported the scheduling of the quarterly meetings. We've also got a partner contact database, and as I mentioned before, we've got the ongoing updates to the website. Conscious of the time, so I'm going to just go on to the kind of board update. There's a more extensive update that's been shared with yourself and Jim, Callum. So I don't know, you could maybe tack that on with the minute afterwards, but I've kind of just tried to pick out some highlights of that. So I suppose the first thing to touch on is the revised HOIP, so the Highland Outcome Improvement Plan. That's now been agreed for 2024 to 2027, and it focuses on 3 strategic priorities of people, place and prosperity. The board has considered a draft delivery plan, which identifies 7 cross-cutting themes and associated actions. They've been identified from the feedback and engagement discussions carried out throughout the period of revising the HOIP. The cross-cutting themes were obviously developed on the basis that they're cross-cutting in nature, and they'll obviously deliver against more than one strategic priority. So it's not that it needs to fit really neatly into one specific box of people, place or prosperity. There will be, things that touch on multiple. In terms of strategic priorities, they are connecting people and places, whole families and community-based approaches, employment and employability, community wealth building, housing, shared approaches to commissioning, and aligning partnership practices. So a draft performance framework has been considered by the board, and basically that's there to track the progress and the actual impact of the actions. As I've just said before, Callum, it's all about making sure that what has been done is actually having an effect, and if not, what do we need to change? The framework proposes that the indicators align with the HOIP's priorities of people, place, prosperity. The idea is that the board will finalise these baseline, and then we'll have reliable benchmarks for annual reporting in the future. Obviously, I appreciate the revised HOIP brings about a number of changes. I spoke to Scott and Miranda yesterday, and appreciate there'll be probably a number of questions about how that will affect the Sutherland CP moving forward. And again, having spoken to Scott and Miranda yesterday, myself and Gail, the Partnership Development Manager, we've agreed to both come along to the development day in, I think it's the 17th of January, in Golspie, and then that way basically partners are able to kind of digest the revised HOIP and then raise any questions or issues they might have on that day. And then the idea being that Gail would present do a bit of a presentation about the revised HOIP at the Q1 meeting in 2025. And then that way the wider partnership will be able to understand how the revised HOIP will work in practice. And hopefully that's that doesn't come across as me kind of passing it back, but I'm very aware of how new I am in post, and I think Gail will probably be able to provide much more context and provide more insight as to how that will affect things moving forward. So hopefully that'll be useful. And that's all from me.
Thanks, Jimmy. Right, I'll open up. I think the HOIP side of things, I think, Jimmy, just what you've said at the end is probably the most relevant thing. I think rather than actually getting involved in discussion about the HOIP at the moment, particularly we've got 20 minutes left to go, that will feature into the early new year where we've got the workshop in January and then the next meeting, the next quarter, when Gail can come along as well. So I think, because the HOIP's obviously got cross-cutting themes there, there's 9 cross-cutting themes, I think, from what I can see. And we as a partnership will need to look at that, how it fits in with the subgroups, but and so on and so forth, which is part of the work we're doing anyway, so it's quite well timed. Is there anything that anyone wants to ask Jamie other than about the HOIP? Because the HOIP can be a whole meeting in its own right, to be perfectly honest with you. What I would say meantime is that I certainly, and that's probably why I wanted Jamie just to kind of touch on kind of the structure of it all, because so I do now get updates from Gail and Jamie around about what's the board meeting, strategic board meeting and such like. So in the future I'll start to share that with the minutes, and then that'll go around everyone as well, and that'll give you hopefully that link to the board, and that'll give you kind of the flavour of that. So and a lot of the work that we do as a partnership already is quite linked in with the HOIP anyway, looking at it. So we're well lined up in the place plan and all that. So it's all in a relatively good place, I feel, certainly. But Jamie?
Yeah, just to add that really for folk who do come along to the development day on the 17th, please, come along and be prepared to ask any question, big or small, even if you think it's insignificant. I think the more we kind of discuss it and any questions or issues, the better for the future. So I think as we just get things out in the open, kind of we can clarify any misunderstandings or any questions at all. So I think really just come in the spirit of asking questions. Don't be worried if you think they're stupid or anything like that.
Perfect. No, excellent. Thanks, Jamie, for that, and thanks for your input and your help in between meetings as well, Jamie. It's very much appreciated. So thanks very much. Hope you have a nice time in London. Right, thanks for that. David, I think it's project support team update funding. Over to yourself. Next section.
Well, it's the support team overall. Obviously, thank Miranda, to a lesser degree Scott, since he's babysitting his grandson today. He needs to get his priorities straight. And also really quite heartening today, because we've been employing community support staff for the SCP since 2017, and a number of them have been mentioned today in the roles they've gone on to. A number of them, I mean, Natalie's on this call, Fiona, who's working with us, is on this call, Gail's been mentioned. you know, and the rest of the work that it's actually really heartening that we've played a role, and the SCP's played a role in continuing that good community work's happening right across the Highlands. So that's good. A lot of what in the update that has been passed to me by Scott and Miranda has actually been touched on in a lot of ways. So local place planning, Miranda's doing a power of work in Laird to try and get information to help inform that. The work with the Sutherland plan, which is different to the local place plans, the Sutherland area plan, again, Scott and Miranda are working on that and trying to input all the work that the SCP does, and then align that with some of the stuff that the SCP is not in place to do but is required for the area plan. So that's a piece of work that's, I think, quite interesting. As Miranda said, she's been involved in working with the SRI in creating the brand identity and doing some of the admin and compliance setup with that. Miranda was away with Fiona at the Highlands and Islands Climate Hub leadership course, making change happen, and there's a number of Sutherland folk on that, so that was really, and Caithness folk as well. That was interesting to see, and hopefully there'll be some inspiration coming from that in the coming months. Obviously, we're having more core partner meetings to assess and evaluate the subgroups, and Callum, you're leading that. Sutherland Cares has been covered, but there was a Highlands and Islands Climate Festival event held at Lochview Rural Training, and that was really useful. We've employed a new officer for the Far North Community Rail Partnership, which covers from Ardguy to Wick and Thurso, and all the communities that have stations, and Miranda's helping out with some of the digital content and helping with that. We've talked about the HOIP there, talked about the Northwest 2045 conference, and I will reiterate that Miranda and Scott said it was really, really useful and really good. Comms, increased engagement and input with the weekly newsletter as a source of information, and there's what's on the jobs and the funding opportunities, and the quarterly newsletter was published in October. The Facebook followers have gone up by about 15% in the since June, so that's really encouraging as well. And I suppose the last thing to say really is just that, and one of the reasons to the question of Chloe earlier is, Scott and Miranda's funding only goes till the end of March, and we were hoping that Community Regeneration or Coastal Communities funding or whatever it's wrapped up as would be a part of that, but it's a little bit concerning that no decisions will be made till June, because there's clearly a gap there, and that's not something that the Trust can absorb. We'd really like to but with thankful of the support we've already got from Community Regeneration through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and through HI, and HI have been supported for a number of years, but we'll have to work at that and see where we go. I see Chloe's put her hand up there, so.
No, it was just to pop in there, David, and saying, I appreciate that it's challenging, and we understand these challenges, especially around the funding. The community-led local development fund funding has been confirmed for next year, so that's what could be available as an open pot around June time, but it's, as you said, it's the coastal communities that's still to be, members need to decide on it, and we will be able to report back. And I know it's difficult when we can't give a set answer. What I can do is I can speak to the programme manager and see if there's anything else that she can firm up with you, but as far as I'm aware, that is the information that we have just now. So as soon as we do have more information, then we can let you know. But the June date was for community-led local development, so there is the possibility of this confirmation of the coastal community funding in February.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I've been in your position. I used to dish out funding myself. I know it's not easy from your perspective as well. It's just us trying to manage it going forward, and obviously with coastal communities funding now part of the regeneration funding, with Sutherland gets some would say population-wise a disproportionate amount of that, so it is a good opportunity for Sutherland. So we'll keep in touch. But the reality is the success and what we've been hearing about the Sutherland Community Partnership and how good it is, to my mind, is purely down to the good staff that we've had past and present, and staff driving it forward. And if there is a gap there, we've had that before, and basically the partnership has stopped functioning. So we need to be cognizant as a partnership that the funding ends in March, and if there is support staff through us or through whoever, that we need to put the pedal down to try and do something about that. So we'll continue with that, and Callum's very aware of that, and the councillors are, and Jim's trying to help all he can. So we'll see where we go, but it is December now, so you know, we're just over 3 months away from the funding coming to an end. But the team are doing fantastic work, and I'd love to have them both in post for a while yet.
Yeah, no, thanks, David. Thanks for all that. And the bit about funding at the end is not lost on me at all. So I've actually got a note of it anyway. But so we'll just monitor that and actually assist as I can as well. Okay, thanks, David. I'm just aware I don't want to run over, so I'm just aware of time. So Vicky, sorry, I'm kind of running short in time. And Golspie and Dornoch Planet Youth, Vicky Clark. What are they?
Lovely, thank you. I've got a really super short presentation. If it's okay to share that, it'll just take 5 minutes. Is that okay? Grand.
Perfect.
Can everybody see that?
Yep, that's it. Thanks.
Super. Right, I'll just rattle through this because we've presented to you a couple of times before. As you know, Planet Youth has been piloting in 5 high schools across Highland, and 2 of those are in Sutherland, one being Golspie and one being Dornoch Academy. Planet Youth is very much about data-informed improvement. Myself and Lindsay, my colleague here, we're both members of the health improvement team within the NHS Highland Public Health Directorate. The young people are surveyed every 2 years. We get the data back from the young people, and we use that data to work towards improving the physical and mental health of all ages of young people. So even though it's 16-year-olds that fill in the survey, it's to try and improve the health of younger generations coming up and coming through. And the focus is very much on early intervention and prevention to try and stop problems from happening in the first place, because we know that it's much harder to treat anything once it becomes embedded and normalised. We've shared this data with you at previous meetings, so I'm not going to go into great depths about it, but we have sort of a lot of great data from the Golspie area. We have a great data set from the Dornoch area. They're not comparable in any way, shapes or forms. You know, they're very different communities, very different schools, but we take the whole reports out into our community Planet Youth groups, and some members of the groups are here today. So Alyssa's here. It's great to see you, Alyssa. Jim McGillibury was here earlier. He comes along. We tie in with a huge amount of people, and we are starting to action the data that we get back from these young people. So the community groups, the members themselves have drawn up their action plans that they want to focus on, and they've chosen the 3 areas that they're most concerned about. In Golspie, the 3 areas that they put into their action plan is focusing on preventing and early intervention regarding drug use and social norms around substance use. Goal number 2 is to improve the mental health and resilience of the young people in the area, and objective number 3 was to promote kindness and positive relationships and to reduce bullying. In Dornoch, similar but slightly different. Again, they're wanting to focus on building resilience and mental health in their young people. They're wanting to also improve accessibility to activities. Transport is an issue in that particular area, with some of the people not being able to get to activities that are up and running because there isn't community transport. Is something that we're looking at as a group. And goal number 3 is to reduce the incidence of vaping in the local young people. They felt that that was an area of great concern. So Lindsay, who's here today, she's taken over the area of Golspie from Eve Scott, who was previously in the role. And even though I oversee all 5 school areas, I've taken over Dornoch from Eve also. So if anybody has any information they want to pass on, or if they have any questions or queries around either of these groups, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Just rattling through this because I know you're short of time. Planet Youth is all about partnership work. We work in collaboration with a lot of people. We work very, very closely with the school staff and the Highland Council, YDOs, they've obviously just moved over, and the High Life Highland Active Schools Coordinators, and Caitlin Monroe
she's a lead coach for Sutherland and East Ross. She's just come back from her maternity leave, so she'll be working very closely with Alyssa to get some activities up and running in Golspie and Dornoch, which will be great. We also work closely in collaboration with the educational psychology team, Bernadette Cairns, the mental health workers, school nurses, and the local smoking cessation advisors. And we also tie in really closely with the whole family wellbeing programme and Youth Highland. We would really like to see more parents and carers coming along to our groups. They are they have the biggest influence on the young people, obviously. But that is one group that we are struggling to get along. We would love to have more community council members come along. We do have, like I say, Jim McGilvery and Richard Gale comes along to our meetings, and they're both hugely beneficial. And of course, they are in key positions to make real changes. And we also tie in very closely with the local youth groups, and we also work with Mikey's Line and Cooth because, like I've said, the mental health is a real area of concern at the moment. What resources do we have available at the moment? When we have a Discussing Drugs and Alcohol with Young People e-module that's been made by the Public Health Improvement team. That's available on TURAS and anybody can access that. We have released a parent information pack on vaping for parents and carers. That's an e-booklet. I'll drop that into the chat when I finish my presentation. That's been really, really well received. It doesn't just tell you what's in a vape or why vapes are dangerous. It ties in a lot of the Planet Youth data, and it really shows parents and carers how they can build up protective factors in their young people's lives to either prevent them from starting or to help them stop. That's had over 1,200 views so far, and the feedback has been really good. We carried out a bullying webinar with Safe, Strong and Free. That was really well attended, and we also have a bullying report with the collated data across Highland, which really identifies, how concerning bullying is and why that's a key focus for us going forwards. We release a monthly newsletter, which is being read by approximately about 500 people a month. Brilliant. Thank you, Lindsay. She's popped that in the chat there. And we have a Planet Youth and Highland Facebook page. We share all of our resources on there, and it's updated very regularly. There's also the HSAT website, that's the Highland Substance Abuse Toolkit. And Lindsay and I are in the process of creating a Padlet, which is a resource, and we'll be creating 3 of these. One of these will be for parents and carers, and it's going to be like a one-stop shop of where they can go and get information, advice, training, support around all aspects of their young people's health and well-being. And then we will also make one for school nurses and guidance teachers, and then we will make a 3rd one for young people themselves, really just to make it much easier for people to find what they're looking for. So what are our current priorities? At the moment, it's about sustainability of Planet Youth work. The pilot comes to an end at the end of March. At the moment, Winning Scotland, who is a charity who oversees some of the funding, is taking a funding bid to Scottish Government to see if, with a 5-year plan going forwards, if they get the funding that they're hoping for, the plan is to roll Planet Youth out more widely across Highlands. It's also about trying to embed it within other groups, within the communities too. We want to constantly raise awareness of what Planet Youth is about. It's not just about substance use, it is about improving the health and well-being of all our young people in all aspects of their life. We do really want to encourage parent and carer involvement. So if anybody has any great ideas of how we can increase that, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And partnership work. We've worked with a huge variety of partners already. But if you are in the call today and you haven't heard of us or you haven't linked in with us, please do drop me a line. I would love to speak to you and see how we can collaborate. And that's it. That's our really quick whistle-stop update from myself and Lindsay for Planet Youth in Sutherland. Does anybody have any questions?
No, you've covered it perfectly, Vicky. Thanks for that, Vicky. And I think, again, it just shows what the work that's happening across Sutherland. It's good to share that with other people and give other people the opportunity to understand what's happening. So thanks for that, Vicky, and thanks, Lindsay, as well. And that there's no doubt that work that you're doing will have a big impact on those that you're trying to help. So thank you for that. Right, the final thing was Trish Matthews, Highland High Life Community Capacity Building. Trish, I'm aware that, so I'll let you see if you want to come back at the next meeting as well and go to the very beginning, because I'm always aware people at the very end, same with yourself, Vicky, it's not fair that people at the very end up actually kind of rushed. So I'll let you Go on, Trish, and present as you wish, but you're more than welcome to come back at the next meeting and go first as well, so that you can have everyone's, but go for it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, would that be better that I just come back next meeting, because I know everybody will be wanting to dash off now. We've only got a couple of minutes.
I mean, if that would be okay with you, Trish, that might be better.
I think that might be better. That I can
I'm
speak
just
about.
aware that
But what I might just a quick plug on Wednesday, we've got an open morning, 11 till 3. So just advertising that, people are very welcome to drop in. We've got a shop and drop event, but also being able to come and see some of the work we do from the learning zone here. So you can find that on the end of the primary school. So be very welcome to come in and meet some of the learners and have a look at some of the work. That's sometimes easier to understand some of the stuff we do. So, and then if I can get a slot next meeting, that would be great. And
we'll put you first. You were first up, so you can then have 2 hours. You can have a whole 2 hours to talk. So yeah, I think it just be. I'm aware people's diaries nowadays, particularly they might have meetings 3 after, and then people drop off, and then you don't get the benefit. You won't get the benefit of actually. But sorry about that, Trish.
No, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine.
But we'll I don't know if Miranda, we can maybe next agenda we put Trish first. So okay, is there any other, the last bit is any other community matters or any AOCB? I don't know if anyone has anything they wish to raise. No, I'm not seeing any hands. So the next meeting date's the 7th of March, and then it'll be into March, April, May, June. So June and September. I think there's an intention. We'll kind of work this through into the new year. But the intention, I suppose, the next meeting will be online again. There is an intention. Certainly, I have a desire that some of the meetings in the summertime, so in June and September in particular, that those meetings actually try and go out into the community again in person. There will obviously be some kind of facility to kind of go online as well. But I feel it's important that the community, the community partnership actually goes into the community and allows online facilities for people to link in, but also tries to actually physically go into the community, and particularly maybe across the north and west coasts of Sutherland. So I think the intention would be to actually try some form of in-person meeting with an ability to go online as well in the summertime. But the next meeting will be online again. So unless anybody has anything else, I'll just conclude things. And it's the last meeting of the year, so I wish you all a very good end of year when it comes. But I'd probably just finish on the point of kind of just, as I always say, there'll be people out there across the course of this year, and you won't know them, you won't see them, but they will be better off for what you have done. And I cannot say that enough. And it's really, really important, because the work that we all do, I do the same in the police myself, that it's the measurements of success are difficult to find sometimes, but there's 40 odd people here. The 40 odd people here who are all individually, collectively doing good things and going over and above. And it is because of yourselves that there are people out there who are better off. I think the best example, I saw an email there. I think it was part of the Food to the Fuel Poverty Group. I saw an email flashing up the other day about children in Sutherland. I can't pardon my ignorance of my memory of it. It's a group who are arranging for Christmas presents for children in Sutherland. Now, it's actually, it doesn't feel great that actually has to happen, but that's the reality of actually the communities that we are trying to serve, and the fact that there are people going out of the way to try and make that happen. So there's children having a good Christmas day. That speaks volumes for the people who are actually in this group and in this meeting, and for the work that you do day in, day in, week in, month in, month out. So thank you on behalf of those people. Keep up the good work you're doing, and we'll see each other at the next meeting we see. So thanks very much, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Chair.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.